Today I'm going to talk about meta ads or Facebook and Instagram ads and the point of those for your brick and mortar practice. Welcome to the Up in My Business podcast with me, Lex Lancaster, where you'll get an inside look at all things tech, business, and my life as a physical therapist turned digital operations expert. You'll hear all about my lessons as a business owner, the ins and outs of tech for your business, and more. From SEO, websites, and email marketing to automations, launches, and copywriting, I've got you. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Up in My Business. If you're new here, I'm Lex. I am the host of Up in My Business. This is a podcast that does give you tactical information, and that stuff comes after my business and life updates. So we'll get started there. Business, life stuff, nothing new to really report, honestly, which I always feel it's like nothing new. And, you want to have something new, but you don't. But the cool thing is when it's same old, it's ultimately a blessing. So really happy that we've got same old over here. When it comes to business stuff, I actually don't think after I speak with potentially one more person, I don't think I'll have space for more websites or large projects until 2027. Just kind of where I'm at and what things are feeling like. And also I don't take on a lot in November and December outside of my usual clients because it just doesn't make sense. I like to take a long break in December, and Thanksgiving is in November, obviously. So we've got a lot of, time off, traveling, etc. So I like to finish everything big, if you will, in October. I actually cannot believe we're talking about the end of the year already, and I'm planning for the end of the year already. That's pretty crazy to me. So I'm just keeping on, and also not booking big things, especially in December. Like it's just not part of what I want to do with that time, because I do want to take that. I take just about 2 weeks off at the end of December, and then I take off the first week, 2 week and a half in January. And I absolutely love that downtime. Again, it's August 15th. And the reason why I'm sitting here thinking about it already is because I'm looking at my calendar, and that is literally 2 months away as far as me planning for things, because I have to plan ahead. And, I schedule all of my clients for their work a month to a month and a half ahead of time. So it's like, I'm thinking about it. It's there. I can see it on the calendar. And the crazy part is I'm like, I have to order another yearly calendar. Like the time is almost here, which is always just so insane to me how fast everything goes. So that's that. Other than that, nothing else to really dive into today. This episode should be relatively short, but I'm going to try to dive into some things with where I'm at with meta ads and brick and mortar practice, and like what the point is. And you can take it, leave it. There's going to be conflicting stuff. There's also going to be different methods for different people. What I mean by that is if you meet with one person who does meta ads, someone else is going to do it a different way. So just recognize, I'm never saying that my way is the only way, but what I am saying is this is what I'm seeing. And this is what, in my opinion, as a clinician, makes sense. And also as a human, I think that some of this stuff, I was just talking with a Lecture Mind member the other day about, should she run X, Y, and Z thing for her practice? And, does it make sense? And I'm like, look, here's the logistical side. Here are the stats. Here's what we know data wise and what makes sense. But also recognize that sometimes it's just a test, and you get to say yes, it worked, or no, it didn't work. And then just change course accordingly. So you don't have to, go by the stats. I'm thinking about a client right now that I have. When it comes down to what we call a self-liquidating offer, you put something behind ads. It's the long and the short. It's like a funnel where people find your product via an ad. There's some sort of order bump, upsell, downsell, whatever. And the way that you set it up is that you spend X amount of dollars on the ad, And then you have this thing that they're coming across. It's not a free thing. You're actually putting a paid product behind an ad, which is a whole other conversation we're not having today. And that ad is not supposed to make money. You're supposed to be in the range where you're not making any money in the ad, but you're covering your ad spend. That's the whole point of why they call it a self-liquidating offer, because you're covering your ad spend by the people buying the thing that you're having them buy. So the way to make money is to, add the upsell, potentially add multiple order bumps, add a downsell, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of my clients currently is having a 10x ROI, ROAS, return on ad spend. So 10x means she spends $1, she gets back $10. So obviously we're playing with really small numbers here, but this is me saying stats are stats, norms are norms, and just recognizing that things differ. It's just like when I talk about pelvic therapy and SEO and small towns versus large cities. If you're a pelvic health provider in a small town, your SEO job and to get ahead on SEO, I'm not saying you can never be beat, because that is not true. If you work on SEO though, you should have a really, I'm going to say a significantly easier time having the SEO success compared to someone who is in New York City and is a pelvic health provider, and especially easier than someone who's in New York City and is just a generic pelvic PT or a generic PT who does ortho, right? So everything is dependent on so many factors. And, I think we always have the stats and numbers, and I think that's a really great place to start and a really great place to understand, this is what you can expect. Expectations are great. And anything outside of those expectations is literally just golden. That is amazing. Yay, we can celebrate. I think there's too much that people will pass off, and they're like, well, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. Yeah, and I could make $1 million tomorrow. Let's not base it on that. We always want to talk about what is logistically and statistically the norm. And then anything outside that norm, we either need to address it because it's so bad outside the norm and that doesn't make sense and something needs to be fixed, or it's so good outside the norm that cool, things add up and it makes sense. That can happen. And I think when we spend too much time in the realm of, well, this could happen and this could happen and this could happen, and if I did this and this and this and this, all this stuff together could do this thing, that's great. And that's a fine place to live if you enjoy that. For me, I like to have concrete estimates, if you will, and concrete stats to lean on. And that way I know that anything outside of that is just a bonus. It's just a bonus. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything is negative or bad or whatever. It's just, we need to figure out what's the normal, what can I expect? And then from there, what can we do? Right? And what's happening? And then we can assess accordingly and celebrate accordingly and be nervous accordingly, blah, 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 right? So today I want to talk about meta ads, and meta ads are Facebook and Instagram ads for a brick and mortar practice, not an online business. I'm not speaking about that. The client I was just talking about before is an online business. Well, she's a blend, but she does not have a practicing clinic. So this is an online offer that she has, and that is separate from what I am talking about today. So when we talk about brick and mortar practices and we talk about Instagram, Facebook ads, there is messaging that exists around the fact that you can fill your clinic with meta ads. I will tell you, I completely disagree with that. I disagree with that messaging wholeheartedly. I do not feel like that is any sort of something to lean on. I don't think that is a good marketing plan. I don't think that makes sense. I will tell you what I feel about meta ads after I dive into what you should lean into first. So first and foremost, meta ads should not be your first marketing thing that you're spending money on. If you have a brick and mortar practice, and I'm going to go back to the beginning here, you get started, you open your doors. The first thing you better be doing is putting your boots on the ground. Go meet people. Make sure you're inside the town that you're in. You're visiting local businesses. You're going to meetings of different local gatherings. Maybe you're joining a local group, whatever that looks like. be in your community. And you have to get results for your people. So you have these people start to come to you that you met locally because you are a representative of your business wherever you go inside that town. They start seeing you locally. They come into your clinic. They get treatment. You have an amazing, treatment, practice, experience, etc. Those people then tell other people. That's what we call word of mouth, right? You get a really good rep in Facebook groups. You start to get recommended by people. That is word of mouth marketing. That should be the first thing that you really dive into. And that should be the first thing you capitalize on. I think people are like, I'm going to turn a meta ad on while I go meet with a local Pilates instructor. Like, no, don't do that. Keep the money in your pocket. Make sure that you have, whatever your money baseline is and whatever you need in order to keep your lights on. And then potentially, I'm going to say also to pay yourself what you can afford to pay yourself in the beginning. Like, don't put it toward meta ads. That's crazy to me. So we're going to have our marketing tactic be word of mouth. Now, depending on how much time you have, I would also argue during that word of mouth period, you should be doing something when it comes to SEO. Whether that is just getting a website that is structurally sound for SEO so that you don't need to rebuild it down the road, or going headfirst into learning how to do your own SEO, and you're going to be writing content, you're going to have all the pages on your website that you need, you're going to make sure that you really dial that part in as well. If you don't have time to do that while you're doing the word of mouth stuff because you're just boots on the ground all day long, going and meeting people, talking to people, doing pop-up events, whatever it is, if you don't have the time to do that, I would say at some point you do need to take a patient slot that you would typically be working, or maybe you work 9 hours one day instead of 8 hours every other day, and you set that aside to do SEO work. I know that it's really tough to understand, or not even to understand, that's not what I want to say. It is tough to accept that some work that we do is not going to pay us a direct ROI. And to understand and to not be able to see the results of our work, especially when it comes to SEO for 3 to 6 months or a year, that's not fun. But what I will tell you is that there is no way, there's no possibility in, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, because there's always that one, I suppose. But if you're writing blog posts and answering questions that your people have, demonstrating your expertise in the field, and you have a website, that speaks about your services, there really isn't something that you can hurt, right? You can't really hurt anything. Now, I will tell you, and I said on Instagram, no longer going to be like, don't use AI because it's so obvious. But apparently random people find my podcast because, I don't know, I got a review that someone didn't know who I was and blah, 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 blah. So don't use AI to write them. I'm going to say it will hurt you at this point if you're having AI write your entire blog. So don't do that. But what I would say is, set aside the time to do this work, because down the road, it's going to benefit you. And every single time I meet with someone who is ready to talk about doing SEO work and actually putting in the effort to do it, they're like, man, I wish I started this before. It's just like investing. And even if you're not doing it optimally, or you're not doing it quote unquote right, I do think that just setting aside the time and being okay with creating content and talking about specific things that you're interested in can help your people, that is beneficial, even if it's not, perfect. And I know that perfectionism, etc., can really hold a lot of folks back, and I get it. I 100% get it. I think it's really important to understand there's a recipe and yada, yada. But I just need you to start answering people's questions in a blog format and just be helpful. Genuinely just be helpful and talk a lot about a little is what I always like to say. If you're a pelvic health PT, go talk about pelvic health on your blog. Answer the questions that people have. Super, super simple to do that. So that's your word of mouth, then your SEO. Then you might want to consider ads. Now, if you're going to put money into ads, you have Google ads and Meta ads as a choice. I will typically advocate for Google ads, because Google ads, what that does is that puts you in front of people who are searching for you already. And not just you, but the service that you provide, right? So Google ads, when someone searches for something, on a keyword that you're bidding on, you will pop up in that search. So they're actively searching for you. The difference with meta ads is that people are not searching for something. And we're not talking about retargeting ads, just cold ads. So people throwing an ad inside of your Instagram algorithm, you're not actively searching for that thing, right? You might not even have searched for it at all. You're just scrolling Instagram and this ad for this clinic pops up, right? That is interruption marketing. So if you're going to invest money into the ad space and you're going to spend money on traffic from ads, my vote for a brick and mortar clinic would be to always start with Google Ads, because you're going to get in front of people who are already searching for your specific service and something around your specific service. It's not interruption marketing. Whereas on Meta's side, you're just throwing an ad in front of somebody who's enjoying their time on Instagram. Like, they may not want anything that you have to offer because they're not actively searching for it on Instagram. Now, I'm going to add a little twist to this. You can run what we call a retargeting ad. So if someone comes to your website, they then get an Instagram ad after they visited your website and being like, hey, saw you visited our website, or something like that, or like just, outlining the experience they can have at your clinic, blah, blah, blah. Just different ads that you can put in front of them that acknowledge that they're familiar with you. They looked at your website and, hey, maybe it's time to book, or to like get in front of them and, make sure that they're aware about your process and about what out-of-network care is and all that jazz. So that's a retargeting ad. Now you might say, well, they're actively searching for that. Why don't I just run those ads? Okay. And they were actively searching for that on their internet browser. And then you came back and interrupted them with another search when they weren't actively searching for you. That is still an interruption marketing experience, because they're not searching for you the moment that you come up in their feed. Right? It's still interruption marketing. So if you're going to be investing in one or the other, I would vote Google Ads before you go into Meta Ads, just because you're going to be bidding on things that people are actively looking for, and it is a time-sensitive ad, right? So now if we talk about what are we doing when it comes to Google and Meta Ads, and why would we run a Meta ad? And we're just going to talk about Meta, not Google. For a meta ad, and why would you run one, and like, what is the point? The whole point of a meta ad is awareness. So it's awareness around your process, awareness around who you are as a business, it's brand awareness, it's service awareness. They're not built to fill your clinic with patients immediately. Now, it's one of those things where it's like, well, if they see the ad and they book, it's going to fill my clinic. Yes, and that is not the typical experience. So what I have seen and what I have come to see in a lot of different areas, and from my specific ads training too, it's not utilized to fill your clinic. It's utilized to keep you top of mind, right? So again, interruption marketing, you're not trying to get someone to book right then and there. Can you do that with an online business meta ad and like have a low ticket product and they buy that right away? Yeah, like of course, but that is not the same as a brick and mortar service, a service-based business. So the whole point is to maintain brand awareness, to get in front of people who are interested in what you may have to offer, and to also alert them of a service that you provide. As an example, if you have, let's just say a pregnancy program, and you do a lot of birth prep work, well, while pelvic PT and birth prep, etc., are all they're more common. It's more common. People are more aware of the service. That doesn't mean that people understand what it is. It does not mean that people know every single thing about it. It doesn't mean that they know that you do this thing, right? So when it comes down to it, the whole point of running that meta ad would be to potentially talk about a service that you provide and get in front of people who may not even know that you offer that service, like birth prep, something like that, right? So running the ad will help them be aware of a service that you offer. And then it's top of mind. People say, oh, wow, I didn't know that was a thing. Now, suddenly they know that your business offers pregnancy and postpartum PT. And if you do everything correctly, you're getting in front of people who are pregnant, right? So you're getting in front of the right person, and they might say, oh, wow, do I need that? Then they might go to your website. They might do a little bit of research. They might, search for other people to work with, or they might look at your competitors, and then they might look at your blog content. They'll start doing their own research because they were alerted of a service that you offer. Some people will see your ad, and if you're running a retargeting ad, they might be like, oh my gosh, this is like speaking right to me because I just went to your website and now you're telling me that this specific service is the one that I'm looking for, and this experience that you provide is the one that I need and I want, etc. And you're here now, right? So you're here and you're showing me this ad, and wow, like I believe in this thing, I'm going to do it. And they might go to your page and book. Yes, 100% that could be the way that it happens. But most often than not, we are seeing that once you run a meta ad as a brick and mortar practice, what the real process is it just becomes part of a touch point. We know that people need multiple touch points. We know that people can sometimes need 10 touch points before they actually book. This is just providing another opportunity to have a touch point with a potential patient, which is huge, right? And it doesn't have to be too, I'm going to say, expensive or costly. These meta ads, I never advocate that people are like spending $50 a day. I think that's crazy for a brick and mortar practice. You can do very low ticket ads, for $5 or $10 a day, and get in front of enough people that will help you maintain relevance and alert enough people of a service that you provide. So it's not like I'm saying that these meta ads should ever be, $60 a day or $100 a day. We're keeping it really reasonable. So all of that being said, you'll never hear me say, run these ads or do this thing and you're going to get more patients. I think that's crazy. It's a promise that I'm never willing to make because it's not how it works. It's all a part of the marketing. I'm going to say the marketing silo and the I'm going to say, what word do I want to use? Overlap, maybe, potentially overlapping. The overlap of the marketing silos that you're utilizing and the collaboration of all those things. And then the amalgamation, like that word, of everything that you're putting out there. People will then potentially see those things, see you in different places, and then finally find it in them to book an appointment. Like, we're never blaming one thing for the traffic or for the conversion. We can only look at their experience and where they went, what they did, what they saw, and where they finally made the actual push to an appointment or a contact form or whatever. And we're never trying to just be like, I want to fill my practice with meta ads. That's not what we're doing. We're going to fill our practice because we have exposure in multiple places. We have exposure in the ad space, potentially. We definitely have exposure in person, and brick and mortar, our word of mouth is really strong. We have exposure SEO. So we're actually in the rankings on Google and we're ranking for things we care about. And then for Meta and Google ads, we're now coming up either when people search for something, Google ad, or we're making sure that people are still aware or are alerted of a service that we offer and who we are as a business on a Meta ad. And that doesn't mean it's one or the other. It's typically always a combination of multiple things that help you get a new patient and have new people coming in your door. And turning a meta ad on and off and filling your schedule because you're turning a meta ad on, that is not how I have ever seen it play out. And again, it's not, I would just say that is not the normal. I would say if that's happening, you may be in, a smaller town, or it's likely a bunch of folks who already know about you and they may be recurring patients. But I would say that's not typically what I see. It's more or less a blend of everything together. And then when they're all working together and people find you in multiple areas, they then feel like they can make that appointment and they feel like you're the one. And of course, like that means that your messaging is on point and everything else, because don't forget, it doesn't matter if you turn an ad on, if your website is not where it needs to be and your messaging is not where it needs to be on your website and in your ads, well, the people you're going to be attracting will likely not be the right people, and people may see those things and then go elsewhere. All right, that's all I've got for you. I hope that helped clarify a little bit of things and, give you my opinions around the usefulness and what we would use a meta ad for in your practice. And I'm always going to tell you gold standard is word of mouth. Then I would invest in SEO. And by invest, I mean time, because SEO work is free. You're not paying Google to come up when you're working on your SEO. And then likely Google ads before meta ads. But that is my take on meta ads and brick and mortar clinics. I am happy to answer questions. Let me know if you enjoyed this one. And as always, thank you so much for listening. I will catch you next time.